Okay, students, let's begin lecture. We're going to do some observations of the spectrum of hydrogen this morning in just a few minutes, and we'll talk about it. And actually, we'll be talking about hydrogen and trying to understand hydrogen and the other elements this entire semester. But before we do that, I want to talk a few minutes about this recent trouble with registering iClicker. And apparently, nobody on campus, I was told by the system administrator in web courses this morning that nobody on campus is able to use the iClicker registration tool. And the reason is this is a direct quote from his email to me. The SSL certificate for the URL of the iClicker LTI site has been revoked. I have no idea what that means, except that it means trouble for us trying to get iClickers registered. Now, raise your hand if you used a phone and the Web Courses app and you did seem to register your iClicker. One, two, a few of you. I hear that that's possible, but so far the people that have told me that haven't showed up as being on the roster officially. All right, so I don't really know what to tell you. As I mentioned, I talked to the sysadmin and a few other friends about it, and this is all I have to say. We will soon prevail over iClicker, and it's going to involve some persuasion at some level to get them to do what they're supposed to do a couple months ago. So apparently this thing is flaking out on me here, this connection. Try not to touch it. Sorry, the cable up here is going in and out. All right, so we're going to soon prevail over this iClicker trouble. And I know that a bunch of you have it, and you're not registered, and it's burning you up, and it's really burning me up. But we're gonna get it solved. So don't panic. Just the mental attitude that you should take is patience. So be patient, and patience always wins. Okay. Question?
I was able to get the page to open and for me to input my clicker ID number, but it never really gave me feedback.
Yeah. The student in front said, I was able to get the page open and input my serial number, and click it, but it didn't give me the feedback. And it's supposed to give you feedback, and that appears to be the two problems: loading the page itself, and then getting the feedback to signify the acknowledgement. For those of you that did seem to register on the phone, I have a feeling that your serial number and your NID are floating around in cyberspace on the iClicker server, wherever that happens to be, Dubuque, Iowa, or something like that. But by the time we get this all sorted out, hopefully it'll get all synchronized up and you'll be good to go. But we don't know for sure. But we're going to be patient, and we're going to win. Question?
Right, that won't affect the financial aid, only if we do our quiz. That should be okay, since it shows that you're technically in class.
The financial aid is the requirement for financial aid and attendance is assignment 0. It has nothing to do with iClicking. I mean, maybe some other professors do. By the way, you cannot use iClicker.com to register it. You must use web courses as soon as we get it working. iClicker, because I don't synchronize to iClicker.com. I only synchronize to web courses. Yeah?
Do we need, if we already did synchronize on iClicker.com, do we need to go in and change anything?
You're going to have to do it again in web courses. Okay? As soon as it gets. So if you haven't registered and you want to register, there's a big discussion thread that was started, I don't know, Tuesday night maybe. And it's still going. Apparently there was a solution for people with Surfaces and Windows Internet Explorer, but I'm not really sure if it works or how to make it work for a Mac, which is what I use. But keep an eye on that thread. And as soon as I find out what's happening, I mean, they could have fixed it, as we speak, but as soon as I find out, check my email after class, I'll post something into that discussion thread, and you will know that the situation is normalized. So keep alert to that thread. Question?
I was able to register right before class today, so I don't know if that's
It signifies nothing. Yeah. The student up here said I was able to register before class. What is your last name?
Descalzo.
Descalzo. Spell it.
DES.
DES. Okay. I'll check it after lecture if we have a minute. But yeah, we checked a few people. They registered by phone, and they're not on there.
Why register on computer?
Yeah. So it's just I don't think it's completely squared away yet. Yeah. Question in the back.
Yeah, it's about the textbook. For some reason, like it doesn't show up anywhere.
What?
Or I just can't find it.
What?
Order the textbook. You know how my UCF shows you all the textbooks for free.
Forget about the UCF bookstore.
So just go in and ask for it instead of trying to buy it online.
No, buy it at the publisher's website. It's on the syllabus. It's cheaper than the bookstore.
It's just like not popping up anywhere.
What?
It's not popping up anywhere.
It does. Go to the publisher's website. The link is on the syllabus. And you can buy it. I mean, I've done it. I mean, I haven't bought it 70 times, but I've looked at it 70 times. That is, it's, and what is your first name again? Gabby. Gabby, it's not a print book. It's an ebook only. So you're not going to get it at Amazon or a used bookstore or anything like that. Okay? It's only an ebook. And I wanted it to be about 5 times cheaper than what it is, but unfortunately, it's not. All right, let's do our observation now. Let me pause the podcast and see if we can do some observations. All right, now we're recording. Okay. So that's the diffraction grating. And as I mentioned, we'll be coming back to that. We'll always be aiming for this. Every time we talk about Galileo, every time we talk about Sir Isaac Newton, Michael Faraday, Albert Einstein, and all the others, we're going to be aiming towards understanding what we saw here today. Now, the most basic concept is actually related to this picture. This is the cover picture for our e-textbook. Big football mess. And actually, all that interacting going on there is related to what we just saw, because what you just saw is basically hydrogen's electron and proton interacting. That is what you just saw. And we are going to be building up all of our physics concepts to understand hydrogen and actually molecules. So for instance, the DNA molecule, very complex, but a lot of the stuff that you just saw will be comprehensible in the DNA molecule if we think about interactions. All right. Now, before we get to the interaction concept and all that, I want to talk about the syllabus for a few minutes, and then we'll dismiss, or then we'll get to some more physics stuff and dismiss. And we might dismiss. Is anybody in favor of dismissing a few minutes early? Good. Okay. Anybody against it? I see a guy in the back raising 2 hands. Nice. Okay, I got it. You want to bust out of here? Good, I got it. Yeah, I think we'll because we started a little bit earlier than the other class, so we might finish a little early. All right, let's talk about the syllabus. Just kind of finish up a few things I want to re-emphasize. Midterm exams, the thing that we do is we keep the best 2 out of 3 and drop the lowest. If you take 3, if you miss an exam, whether it's excused or unexcused, that is going to be your dropped exam, right? Because it's effectively a 0 if you're not there. And so what you want, that's why I always say, boy, if you can just, push yourself to get in here and take the exams. If you have to miss lecture, that's one thing. But to miss an exam, boy, you sure don't want to do that. You want to be sitting pretty at the end of the semester and be able to say, yeah, I can drop that stinky exam too. I really biffed it on that. But if you miss it, you can't do that. Now, I say all that to mention that dropping the lowest exam is how we also deal with an absence on an exam day. Now, absence on a regular lecture, we don't do anything special. But exam day, we have to. This is how we do it. And so, as a result, I don't give midterm makeup exams for the midterm. I don't give them early. I don't give them late. You may be 5 minutes late, and that's all right. You'll take the test. But I'm not going to give them, 5 o'clock that afternoon, and I'm not going to give them 9 o'clock in the morning or anything like that. You got to tell. For us, it's noon. Be here at high noon on the Thursdays on the syllabus, and be ready. Be ready to think. All right. So now another thing that I want to emphasize is on these scantrons, they can be a pain in the you-know-what. And here's one reason they can be a pain. Bad dots. Now look at this picture. This is a real-life picture from the desk of my office. Because if you have bad dots, look at this. There's one. Right? If you have bad dots, you drive me around the bend because I have to go and dig out your scantron that's not alphabetized in a big pile of 300 scantrons. And I'm not looking at anybody. But if it happens to be you, I'm going to know your name. And I'm going to know that you're causing me aggravation. And you don't want that. But anyways, look at these dots. It's some of these are, whoop. This guy had a whole bunch of them. And I had to go in there and grade that. Because the machine can't handle that. So, bad dots, you don't want to avoid that. So the way you avoid bad dots is bring in one of those little third grade pink rectangular erasers and just have that on exam day, you'll be good. Because the erasers, I've had guys turn in scantrons where they try to erase and the smudge goes like an inch wide when they erase. Or it's a different kind of eraser and it rubs a hole in the scantron. That's no good. And try not to sneeze or anything on your scantrons. This is a true story. I had a big pile of scantrons. I sent them over to test scoring once, and they came back. Most of them were graded, but then there was this one on top of the pile that had a sticky note. Could not be graded. Wet. Yuck! But I had to grade it by hand. Oh God. Anyways, so try to be nice. Okay, YouTube. This is also on the syllabus. We record each lecture and upload it into YouTube. The link to it is in web courses on the homepage, and just bookmark it. And if you find that you like re-listening to the lecture or even looking over, I better go back and look at that 5 minutes when I was on Facebook with President Obama, or whatever was distracting you. You can go back and look at it. Just double check. A lot of people use them for studying, especially for the midterm. It's pretty good. In fact, Miss Darien, the TA did you ever do that? Re-listen to the YouTubes? Yeah. So the mighty TAs do that and have done that when they were students. So yeah, it's a good thing. Okay, bonus point activity. Everybody always wants to know about that. Okay, bonus points. So that's something that you get an activity where I give you a point for it or 2 points, and it doesn't add to the denominator of the percentage. The baseline denominator at the end of the semester is going to be 250 in the bottom, and then how many points you earn out of the 250 on top. And then if it's over 90%, you get an A, and so on and so forth. The bonus points never add to the denominator. They only add to the numerator. All right, and so we'll have, for instance, early iClicker bonus points. As soon as we get this thing working, hopefully that'll be soon, I always give a bonus point for everybody that's registered before the deadline. The deadline is the Tuesday after Labor Day. So everybody gets a point. And so just try to register. By the way, I was talking with some students. We have I don't know if I already mentioned this. There's a big discussion thread in web courses. And as soon as I know that it's working, as soon as they tell me that the registration is working, I'll make a post into that thread. It'll be somewhere down toward the bottom. And hopefully that'll be soon. Question over here.
It says that the exam is December 10th, but that's a Saturday.
Yeah, December 10th is a Saturday. That is correct. Yeah, you're going to be coming in on a Saturday. It's we're going to have common hour. I explained it last. I thought I explained it last time. Our exam is December 10th. That's correct. It's at 1 o'clock till 3:50, and it's a common hour exam. So we're having both big sections taking exams at the same time, and you can only do that on Saturdays. Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening of exam week, and that's the free period, and that UCF sets up. Does that answer your question? You good? And so that's so that we don't have like total pandemonium stuff. So we're going to try to get 2 big lecture halls like this one, and maybe the one down at the other end of the hall, and we're just going to have a beehive of PSC 1121 exams going. So we're going to have bonus point activity. Another bonus point activity, traditionally after the last lecture, which I think is December 1st or December 2nd, I usually have a big mega review homework that helps you get ready for the final, and that I convert to, 2 or 3 bonus points. And just so you know, 3 bonus points is larger than 1% of your grade. And so it's nice to have 3 bonus points. Even 1 bonus point is nice. It may be just what you need to get over the borderline between a high C and a B, which you definitely want to try to do. Another major source of bonus point activity is special study groups. So go ahead and make notes of this. If you might want to make notes of this, how special study groups work, because they're worth 4 bonus points each time we do them. This is a picture of Lindsay from 2 semesters ago, last fall. She was a special study group leader. Now, special study group leaders or special study groups form after exam 2. And the reason for that is that if I spot a student out of this group or the morning section who has an average of 90% on the first 2 midterms, so like a 46 and a 44 on the first 2 midterms, then I invite them to be a special study group leader. They're not required to be one, but they may be one, and there's a good reason to be a special study group leader if you're invited. Okay, so the special study, whoever agrees to be a special study group leader, they tell me when they want to set up their group, and then students, the rest of you guys, sign up, and then you attend and participate in the study group. You sign the attendance sheet, and then you take exam 3, and hopefully you do better. And usually the students that get to go to special study groups, Maria was a special study group leader, Caroline was a special study group leader, and it really helps the students. It'll help you. Okay, so here's what special study group leaders, it's something definitely you want to shoot for if you can on the exams 1 and 2. First thing that you have to do is hold a 1-hour study session on campus somewhere for 6 other students, so a total of 7 people. And it can be somewhere on campus, like a study room in the library, which is where this picture is, Lindsay's group. Did you have one in the library? Where did you meet? Student Union, over at Hercules, or where, Lake Claire study rooms, over by the arena, wherever you happen to be. If you're the special study group leader, you pick the location and the time, and then students, if they like that location and time, they sign up, if they can. And then you do the same thing again before the final. So the first 1 hour session will be before exam 3. And then the second one will be sometime during finals week. And so that's a total of 2 special study group sessions. Now the 6 students who sign up, if they attend and participate and they sign the attendance sheet and all that stuff, and then if the special study group leader gets the attendance sheet to me, then those students get 4 bonus points each time. So that's 8 possible bonus points. Who's got a calculator out? 8 divided by 250. That's 3 point something percent. 0.03. Who's got a rig? Calculator time. 8 divided by, what is it? 0.032. Okay, so that's 3.2%. That is sweet. And you definitely want to bag that if you can. Question?
Usually like quite a lot SSG leaders, so it'll be like.
Yeah, good question. The question was, are there usually quite a lot of SSG leaders? And the answer, sadly, is no, there's never enough. And so what that means is, if we have 15 special study group leaders, 15 times 6, that's 90 students out of 600. And so there's never enough for everybody to attend. So when you sign up, you got to be right on the stick. I mean, you got to sign up like a flash.
Is it like a written sign up or?
It's electronic. It's in web courses. And so I'll tell you, okay, signups will open up at 8:30 p.m. on Sunday night. And then at 8:29 p.m. on Sunday night, you log in and you get ready to click on something. I will have the schedules up before that, so you'll know the time and place of all the 15 or however many special study group leaders, where their sessions are and when. So you'll know which one to click, and you click it, and then you're in. And it's easy, but you got to be fast. And because it's just, I wish there were more, but unfortunately. And I don't want to overburden the special study group leaders. But the special study group leaders, you're doing me a favor, but then I do you a favor in return. I mean, the students that go, they get, the 6 students that get 4 bonus points, possibly 8 if they go to another one for the final. But you special study group leaders, yeah, I got you. How does that sound? Special study group leader, you do your 2 sessions properly, you get to skip the final. And I see a lot of smiling faces of people, yo, in the back. You want to go for, yeah. Yeah, special study group leader, skip the final, sweet. For one thing, it makes your exam week easier to organize. One less final you have to worry about. And believe you me, the final is good. Even if I want to make the easiest questions, the final is always tough simply because you have to go in December, you have to remember the stuff we talk about in August. And even if they're all easy questions, just simply remembering that far back, I mean, it doesn't sound that hard, but believe me, it's going to be a challenge. So you're going to, so shoot. If you think you can do it, do your absolute best on exam 1. And do your absolute best on exam 2. And if you do, yeah, you can skip the final. Now, you don't have to. Matter of fact, I have an interesting story to tell concerning mighty, mighty Nitro. Nitro, the man that nobody knows, the mystery man. You're not supposed to know who Nitro, or the female. You don't. Is Nitro ever a female, or is it always a guy? I've only known one Nitro. I had Nitro in my class a couple semesters ago, and he came up to me after class one day, and he said, Dr. B, I can't make it to class, next week because don't tell anybody, but I'm Nitro. And I got to go, to this, I had to go to some game or something. I said, oh, what? You're Nitro? Seriously? Yeah, man, I'm Nitro. And he was. I mean, I could figure it out. But and he was a special study group leader. I mean, he did good on exam 1 and exam 2. And he was, I have a feeling Nitro's in here right now. I'm just getting the awesomeness vibe here. Nitro. Anyways, he was a special study group leader, and he decided to take the final. He crushed it. I mean, Nitro was, man, he was Nitro. He did a great job. Anyway, so he was a famous and an interesting example. And there's been other SSG leaders that have taken the final just to see if they can crush Dr. B's final. And most of the time they do. But they don't have to. And now one last thing. And a student asked me, there's a student up here on the left side over here by the aisle in session, in the morning session. And she said, well, how do we get our grades done if we skip the final? And I said, here's what happens. If you're an SSG leader and you skip the final, I grade you based on 150 points. 2 midterms, best 2 out of 3 midterms, 25 for homework, 25 for clicking, 150 total. So that's how we do it. If you're a special study group leader. Everybody else, 250. All right, so that's how it works. So yeah, you definitely want to shoot for the highest possible performance on midterms. All right, let's talk about homework and clicking pointage. I got a couple examples I want to mention to you. The 25 points in your semester grade that come out of homework are not based straight on the homework. They're based on a percentage of the homework. So for example, if there are 113 homework questions in the semester and you've answered 92 of them correctly, that's 84 or 81.4%, right? So you don't get 92 points in your semester grade, all right? You get a fraction of 25, so 25, 24, or somewhere below that. All right, so here's how you work it out. You multiply 0.814 times 25 points, and that works out to 20.35. So you might want to jot this down in your notes for today. Because, nobody's going to come in on a solid number, a whole number, even number. And if you come in at 20.35 or any number above 20, I always round up. So this one would actually go into the grade book for you as 21. All right. So don't say I never did anything nice for you if this happens to you. Question? The question is, do we have multiple chances for homework? And the answer to that is yes. Standard homework is 4 attempts. Assignment 0, what do I have it set to? 42 attempts or something like that. And it's supposed to be open until December 3rd. But normal homework is 4 attempts. So that being the case, you do it first. Do your first attempt. See how you do. If you biff it on 1 or 2 of the problems, then you go study. Or you meet with your study partner and you work on it together. And you get, next time, second attempt, you get all of them right. Or third attempt, you get all of them right. So 4 attempts. And so most people will have pretty good, if you do the homework faithfully, especially if you do it with a friend, a study partner, you're going to rack up 25 out of 25, most likely. Does that answer your question? Good. Another question. On homework pointage. Yes?
So we are allowed and encouraged to work with other people on our homework?
The question is, are we really allowed to or encouraged to work with other people? The answer to that is yes. And when we're working on problems in class with clickers, we're eventually going to be putting in calculations with our clickers. 16.5 or something like that, and then you hit the send key. I'm going to encourage you to work with your neighbor on that as well. The only time when you're not is, of course, on the exams. all right, than you do it yourself. All right, let's talk about clicking. Now, clicking is based on this. The way that I score clicking pointage is based on this. Exam attendance is mandatory, but lecture is not. So you don't have to come up to me and say, Dr. B, I'm not going to be in class next Tuesday because I have a dentist appointment or something like that. You don't have to do that because we have a built-in leeway factor for you. The leeway factor is this. If you answer 85% of all the questions using iClicker in class for the semester, whether correct or incorrect, you'll get 25 out of 25 points for your semester grade. All right, now that is 85%. Now I never know how many clicker questions I'm going to ask for the entire semester. It might be 104 or 204 or somewhere in between there. But figure out 85% of that, and if you've answered that, then you get 25 out of 25. By the way, side note concerning iClicker, bonus point activity. It's not in the syllabus. I usually put it in the syllabus, but I forgot this year. Bonus point activity related to iClicker is the following. If you answer the iClicker questions correctly 75% of the time, so if I ask you 100 questions and you get 75 of them correct, you get 4 bonus points at the end of the semester. Okay? And so that gives you an extra, and that's 4 bonus points. That's like a special study group. 4 bonus points is nice. And so if you're in class, you not only want to answer questions, but you don't want to just Christmas tree the questions. If you think carefully, talk with your neighbor, collaborate with your neighbor, talk things over, you want to get them right as well. And if you do, you get 4 bonus points. And it is a sweet chunk of change at the end of the semester. And you guys, I'm happy to give you guys bonus points. Because most of the time, my bonus point activity is a way of rewarding you for studying your boop off. Right? Because, you're going to need to study. I mean, it's no other way to put it. So more than 85% answered, correctly or incorrectly, 25 out of 25. Ching! Less than 85%, then you're going to get something less than 25, and we got to work it out proportionally. Now, in the syllabus, there's a proportion there, and on our website, there's a talking PDF in web courses that you can look at and look at how I grade John Q's student with less than 85% of the clicking answers. All right, and so it's let's take a look at that talking. There's one talking PDF in there right now. It looks like this. You open it up in Adobe Acrobat Reader. It'll look something like this. Now, at the very top is, excuse me. At the very top is a link, livescribe.com/player. It is sweet. You click that link. It opens up this livescribe.com page, and then you upload the PDF. This one here, example, PSC 1121 grades. And you can, if you do that, you can click on it, and you'll actually be able to listen to my narration. I have what's called a smart pen and a smart pen notebook. And if I write with the smart pen in the smart pen notebook, it'll record everything I write and everything that I speak into the microphone. And it's really, really nice. Raise your hand if you've taken a look at that talking PDF. Anybody? Bueller? Okay, nobody in this. Anyways, it's in there and it works sweet. And the talking PDFs, I'm going to use that in class when we work out calculations and stuff. Like gravitational forces or some kind of angular momentum problem. And we'll do it on the document cam so you'll see it in lecture. And it will be written into a SmartPen notebook. And then I'll drop that that talking PDF into web courses, and you can go over the calculation to your heart's content as I write. It works really, really nice. So I suggest you go and take a look at it. Anyways, the one that's in web courses right now has John Q students, clicking pointage, and everything else in there. It has his 3 midterms, dropped one of them, final exam, bunch of homework, and a bunch of clicking, and then I put it all together into a letter grade. So you can look at that in web courses. Get your clicker out. Let's do a clicker question. And we just have a highly technical, and actually this is something that if you have your clicker, I want you to turn your clicker on and here's the frequency. If you don't get the message "Go Nitro," look at your clicker. But if you don't get "Go Nitro" or "Ready," it'll say "Go Nitro" and then "Ready." If you don't have that, then hold the power button down, and then when the square starts to flash, type in A and then A, and you'll be on. And then you'll get the "Go Nitro" message. Got it? Raise your hand if you got "Go Nitro." Sweet. Okay, so you guys can all click. And let me close this. And here's the question. I am the biggest fan of highly scientific, technical question. Caroline's over here voting for E. Caroline, there is no letter E on this question. All right, so you can type, and when you're on a multiple choice question like this, you just type the letter and it sends it automatically. When we do numeric or letters that you're typing in, a sentence, which we can do, you have to hit the send key. But for this, just multiple choice. Okay, 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All right, let's see what you guys. Ooh, what? Somebody voted for French fries. Somebody voted for E. What? I don't know. I don't think I'm getting through to you guys yet. Anyways, so that's a practice question, and we'll be, when we get to a physics question, we'll look at these answers, and it will tell us a lot about what you guys are thinking, and that'll help me teach you. And it'll give you feedback about, gee, I really do get that concept, or whatever it is the question's about. All right, let's keep talking about interactions. And that's the title of my textbook, which hopefully you will get soon. And interactions, I love this picture because it shows a very complex set of systems interacting. Those systems are called football players, red jerseys and white jerseys. And they're interacting with the field in a lot of mud and a lot of rain. And, this is a good example of what a scientist does. He looks at the universe around him and asks a bunch of questions and tries to get an answer that is satisfactory and reliable and accurate and true. For instance, in this question, here's a very basic question. Where's the football? I mean, the answer to that would be a position. The position is, number 73's got it over here. Look, number 10's good. There is an answer to that, although I can't even tell. Can anybody see it? I mean, it's number 1. Number 1? Who's number 1? What, this? No, I don't see any number 1. What are my eyes receiving me here or what? Oh, the guy on the, oh, this guy here? Down here? This guy? This guy? Oh, that's number 1? Yeah, I guess so. I wonder, well, he might have it. The thing is, you can't really see it. But that's a question that you could actually answer it as a scientist, by giving a position. A position in terms of the number of the guy who's got it, or, pixels up and pixels across, or something like that. Here's another question. This one's tough. I have no idea what to answer this, because you don't see where the ball is. And even if you could see the ball, that doesn't mean you know that guy's on offense. Which team's on offense? Which one's on defense? But see, that makes a difference. That makes a difference. It's a successful play if the ball goes deeper into the defense. It's a fiasco play if the ball ends up deeper into the offense. So in terms of numerically rating or measuring the game, you've got to know this as well. And you know what this is like? It's like knowing, well, I'm looking at a particle. Is it positive or negative? Same kind of question. Or is it neutral, like a neutron? And here's the main question. Here's you up here. You're up here in the stands. You're freezing your off in this snow. It looks really cold. Anyways, you're up here, or maybe you're the photographer or the photographer's assistant, and you're trying to answer questions. Here's the most basic question of all. Which team will win? And you definitely want to be able to predict that. So you can brag. Yeah, I knew they were going to win. And you definitely want to find out which team won. And that is another future state that you want to be able to predict. And so in terms of that picture, there's a lot in there that typifies what a scientist does and how he approaches things. And the most common question a scientist does is how to predict a future state. So for instance, to go from this point down here in the lower left to this point up here in the upper right, or the other way from upper right to the lower left, a scientist wants to be able to predict that. All right, just the way you want to predict the future state of the score of a football game so that you know who wins. Predicting something in the future for a scientist is just like that. So as I say on page 9, Roman numeral 9 in the textbook, the scientist observes his world and attempts to answer questions about the things that he sees. For instance, is there a plan or a pattern in what he sees? Now, if this is the pattern that he sees, and if it's a baseball on that pattern, he's thinking in terms of, what shape is that? What shape is that path? Now, side note, it's not in the slide, but you can make it a note in your notes. The person that figured out the pattern of a ballistic arc for like a baseball is Galileo. He figured out that this arc, this particular path, is a parabola. People had conjectured about it, but he proved it. Parabola, P-A-R-A-B-O-L-A, parabola. Galileo figured out the pattern. It's a parabola. And if you read in in the introduction and then in chapter 1, you'll see a little discussion of parabola. A second thing, is there a clear interaction between the physical objects that he observes? In that picture of the football players, boy, we saw a ton of different interactions. One guy's trying, it's impossible to tell who's trying to tackle who or who's trying to block who, because it just looks like a pandemonium, that picture, which is why I like it. But yeah, you want to be able to figure out what forces are acting, what interactions are going on. So for this one, question number 2, if you think in terms of a baseball, what is the baseball interacting with? I mean, it's on its path. It interacted with the baseball bat, so it's on its way up toward the top of its arc. But on the arc itself, after it's left the bat, what is it interacting with? The guy that figured that out, go ahead and make a side note. It's not in the slide here, but you can put it in your notes. The guy that figured out this interaction, Sir Isaac Newton. Probably his greatest victory, the law of universal gravitation. And that is the interaction. Galileo figured out the shape of it, and then Sir Isaac Newton said, you know what? I know exactly how the force of gravity works. And he made a mathematical physical theory about it. Question 3. What will be the future state of the things that the observer sees? Good question. So for instance, if you start down here where it says t equals 0.00 seconds, and this is the point up here where it goes later, what time does it get there? What's t? T equals question mark. You want to be able to predict that and calculate it. And then the fourth kind of a question that the scientist has to handle in our scientific enterprise, how do you present your findings so that another scientist can comprehend it? And sub-question 4b is, how do you present it to a regular civilian who's not a scientist? That's also a significant task. You know, Galileo wrote his books so that the average, he wrote in Italian. In those days, a lot of people were still writing in Latin, you know, and he studied Latin. He knew Latin. But he wrote his most important books in Italian so that people in Italy could read them. That's what he wanted to do. All right? So, for instance, here's an equation that Galileo could have written down. Looks pretty fancy. And you can write it down if you like. We're going to explain it next week, Tuesday probably. Very fancy equation relating to the ballistic arc of an object in the gravitational field of Earth. And that's one of the two equations that you need to predict exactly where the baseball or any other object is on its ballistic arc. Now, these are the questions that a scientist will typically want to answer. And the guy that set the pattern for an acceptable and reliable answer is Professor Galileo himself. He is the one that started the whole shooting match. Sir Isaac Newton considered himself a student of Galileo. And that means that we are students of Galileo. We are in the school of Galileo. Those of us in this physics class, I'm a student just like you. I'm just an upperclassman compared to you. You guys are newbies. I'm just a few steps ahead of you. And Sir Isaac Newton took the same attitude. You know what he famously said? You know, people thought, oh, Isaac Newton, he's a genius. You know, he's universal gravitation, comets, you know, everything. He's smartest. But you know what he said? Man, if I've seen a long way, it's true, but it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. So that's where we are. We're standing on the shoulders of giants. So it behooves us to take a humble attitude every step of the way. But it's good to do that because if you take that scientific and humble attitude, you can follow in the school of Galileo. Now here's the first part of Galileo's epic statement. This explains everything that Galileo did, and this is the statement, and he lived it out, that started the whole scientific enterprise in which you are now a member. You are in the tradition. You are in the school of Galileo. Philosophy, and this is also from the textbook, philosophy is written in this grand book, I mean the universe, which stands open, continually open to our gaze. But it cannot be understood unless one first learns to comprehend the language and interpret the characters in which this book is written. All right, what is that language? Galileo continued to say it this way. It is written in the language of mathematics. Its characters are triangles, circles, and other geometrical figures, without which it is humanly impossible to understand a single word of this great book of nature. Without these, one is wandering about in a dark labyrinth. Now, have you written this equation down yet? I want you to circle this part over here. 1/2 GT squared. My wonderful students, there's a triangle in that. That's an equation that comes out of a triangle. And on Tuesday, I'm going to show you all about it. And you can read about it in chapter 1. Now, I have some really bad news for you. Really bad. I'm just going to apologize in advance. It's going to disappoint many of you. And we've had a lot of ups and downs, but we're going to go through it together. I'm going to try to help you cope. There's no homework this weekend. Don't cry. But you're dismissed. No homework. I'll see you on Tuesday. Get the textbook, though, and the clicker. And we'll see you on Tuesday. You're dismissed.